Hello everyone. In today's video we're going to take a look at the Chevy MyLink system that is built into the 2016 Chevrolet Colorado LT. Now keep in mind, depending on which model you have, this varies. So for instance, if you have the work truck model, most likely you're not going to have the system on there, but if you have the LT and up, it is an option as well. So obviously it is powered off right now, and to power it back on, you basically just have to push the power button right here, which not only turns on the system itself, but it also turns on like all your radio controls, things like that, so on and so forth. Now here is your standard user interface right here, or you can consider it your home screen. Let's go ahead and take a look at each one right here. So if we go to audio right here, this is basically where you can get all your audio to play through. So for instance, I have it connected through my Galaxy Note 8 on Bluetooth right now, and I can actually stream music directly from my phone. So some cars' infotainment system have the feature where you can stream through Bluetooth, and you have your standard user interface over here. So obviously the radio, if you wanted to change to the radio instead, and if you wanted to change which device you want your music to play through, you can hit the media button right here, and you can play from whichever source you like. And the same thing goes for over here, media, and in this case it'll try to find like other Bluetooth connected devices. Otherwise, if not, then you can just hit dismiss right there. And then of course you have your previous track button, your play button, which once a song is playing, then the pause symbol is going to pop up obviously, and then the next track button over here, browse. So browse is basically where, well, in this case I'm not playing anything through my phone, but you can browse through like whatever albums that you have, whatever folders that you have on your device. Alright, and if we go to menu, you have like couple different settings right here, or I shouldn't say couple, more than a few. So you have your tone settings right here. You can change the tone to however you like, depending on these settings over here. And if we go back, auto volume right here, you can shut that off. Alright, and then manage Bluetooth devices. So you can, this is where you can access all your Bluetooth devices, and you can either delete them, or you can pair another device depending if you have another driver of this vehicle. If we click the arrow over here, you basically get more radio settings over here as well. So that's pretty much the audio app in the 2016 Chevy MyLink system right here. And I will say it is pretty neat, because once you get a song playing, then it's going to show like the name of the song over here as well as the artist. Although I do find it to be a little bit buggy from time to time, mostly on Bluetooth streaming, because when I try to hit the next button, sometimes there may be like a 5-second delay before it can go on to the next track. However, you don't have to play your music through a Bluetooth device. You can also connect through a USB cable. So say for instance, if you have like an iPod or an iPhone, you can use your lightning cable and then plug it in directly through USB. The only time I haven't been able to do that was with an Android device. So that's why with the Galaxy Note 8 I'm using the Bluetooth streaming. But you don't even have to use like an iPhone or an iPod to play music directly through the USB cable. You can actually take a thumb drive, which is what I use on a daily basis, load some music on there, organize it in however folders you want, and then you can access it from there. So that's the audio app over here. And let's go ahead and go back to the home screen right here. And I should also note, you don't have to always touch the buttons over here on the screen. You can use the little dial over here and make your selection over here. And whichever one you want, you just hit the menu button, and when you want to go back, you can either hit the home button over here, or you can hit the back button over here as well. So let's go over to phone right here, and phone is pretty standard because this particular model that we're in right now, it is the LT model, and you do have Bluetooth capabilities on here. So once you hook up your Bluetooth phone, you basically just hit this app over here, and your connected device is going to be selected. And you do have voice commands over here. So say for instance, if you wanted to say call this person, you can do so as well. You also have your contacts over here. So basically you're able to access your contacts without even touching your phone. So that's pretty neat. Otherwise you can use the voice command feature, so you don't have to take your hands off the steering wheel, and you can continue driving safely. And of course recent, it's going to show like all your recent calls on the keypad right here. So pretty straightforward. You could just dial a certain number if you wanted to, and then just hit the call button right there. Let's go back. Alright, and then you can access your voicemails over here as well. In that case, it would just be calling voicemail from my phone.
Please enter your password.
Alright, so let's go ahead and stop that right there. And then, of course, phones, you can view connected phones as well. So that's pretty straightforward on the phone app within the Chevy MyLink system for 2016. Let's go ahead and jump out of that. Now, projection. So projection, this is where you're able to utilize your Apple CarPlay. Now, I'm not 100% sure if the 2016 models were capable of Android Auto as well. I used to use a Note 4, and I downloaded the Android Auto app on that phone from the instructions that I read, and then plug it up through USB, and it never projected my screen, but it still did for an iPhone. So in this case, let's go ahead and demonstrate what the Apple CarPlay is like. So I have an iPhone 5 right here, and let me go ahead and connect this. Alright, so it is connected right now. And if you already have a Bluetooth device connected, it's going to say connecting to your iPhone, but it's going to disconnect from like the Note 8 or whatever Bluetooth device that you have. That's fine. Let's go ahead and make the switch. And now you can see the projection screen change to Apple CarPlay. So let's go ahead and just set the phone down over here. And let's go into Apple CarPlay. So Apple CarPlay is pretty straightforward. You have your home button right here to access the main screen right here, and you can access multiple different apps right here. This allows you to access your contacts basically in like an iOS user interface, but in your infotainment system directly. There are specific model cars that do have Apple CarPlay integrated. In this case, the 2016 Chevy Colorado LT model with the infotainment system on the Chevy MyLink system and navigation. And navigation was another option as well. You do have the Apple CarPlay capabilities right here, and then you can get into whichever app you needed to. So if you want to go into Maps, you can launch that as well. If you don't like the traditional GPS app that is built into the Chevy MyLink system, then you can still use Apple's Maps if needed to. And one thing that I do notice is like it doesn't let me like access other third-party apps other than like Apple stock apps. So I'm assuming that those apps do have to be compatible with the Chevy MyLink system, and by doing that, that's on the developer's part. But basically, it's pretty straightforward. You can access your music over here to get access to all your music over here, and you can select whichever categories you want, playlist, and if you do have the radio set up on your iPhone, then you can hit the radio tab as well. In this case, I'm offline because it's not an internet connection. Alright, and to go back, you can actually just hit the home button over here, and you're basically going back to the traditional Chevy MyLink system home screen, and you can still access all your music capabilities if you wanted to. All you have to do is like just switch to the media, and then it'll start playing off of the iPhone right here, and I can browse like all different kinds of albums over here as well. So that's basically the projection system. Now let's go over here to the nav. So I have the optional navigation system built in over here. So for those of you guys that don't have like a smartphone, or if you do have a smartphone but you don't want to take up your data, the Chevy MyLink system, if you opted for the navigation system as well, then you're going to have this as well. So standard user interface, zoom in and zoom out, depending on what view is your preference. And of course, you just saw that when I moved around, and if I hit reset, that's basically going back to my current location. Now, if we go to destination over here, you do have multiple options over here, as you can see. And if you wanted to enter an address, you can use this button over here. And if you have the exact address, look it up on your phone and then set it on there. And you can actually change the state if you're actually going to be taking like a long road trip going out of state. So the navigation system is pretty straightforward on this one. And let's go to the menu over here. And you resume to, it'll show like whatever address that you had it set there before. Alright, and then you do have like a couple different settings over here. So let's take a look at navigation voice preferences. So obviously you can control the volume, and you can have it prompt during phone calls, and your current location, traffic. The traffic system, I believe, was like an extra. Yep, there it is. It was part of a subscription for the XM traffic right here. So it'll basically kind of act like your standard Google Maps or Apple Maps that keeps track of the traffic. So for me, I don't need it because I could just use my phone if I really need to just check the traffic. This system I would most likely use if I'm lost or somewhere and I don't want to use my phone to take up not only the battery life but also the data as well. Alright, so you have like multiple settings on how you can adjust the navigation system over here. One thing that I did notice is that when you set a route or an address to a destination, when you're on a highway and you're trying to get out of an exit, it'll be like, please turn right at whatever, instead of saying take exit 39 or 59. So I thought that was a little bit strange, although obviously not all navigation systems that are built into the infotainment system on each car are perfect, but I find it very strange that it was telling me to turn right or turn left on an exit when really it should be saying, please take exit 1, please take exit 2, please turn next right to enter the incoming on-ramp. Well, I would say for that last part, it is accurate on, but when it comes to like getting out of an exit, not really. It just sounds a little bit confusing, but that's just like, I would say, like a minor observation that I've seen. So let's go home over here, and let's go into settings right here. Multiple settings over here, time and date, language, vehicle, rear camera. When you set the truck onto reverse, as you can see, you get a rear backup camera with guidance lines, and they turn as you turn the steering wheel. You do have an option if you really wanted to challenge yourself on like shutting off the rear camera, although I wouldn't suggest it just for safety purposes, but it's up to you if you guys want to maybe train yourself on backing up without the rear camera, whatever the purpose may be. Now, like I said, I wouldn't have suggested it, but it is up to you. Software information, basically take a look at the information of your vehicle, and you can actually generate a report and save it to a thumb drive if you wanted to. Alright, but other than that, it's pretty standard settings. Apple CarPlay, you can actually shut that off if you wanted to. Pretty straightforward. And the display, you can calibrate the touchscreen right here. So you have like multiple kinds of settings within the settings app of the Chevy MyLink system over here. So let's go ahead and go back. Now Pandora, now obviously I can't demonstrate it because this is part of the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto for some of the newer vehicles out there that are compatible. I'm not 100% sure if this vehicle is compatible with Android Auto or not, but this is running off of the Pandora app on your smartphone, and therefore you can access the internet, radio, whatever you like. And I haven't responded to it for a while, therefore it slowly fades out and goes back to the home screen. Now, I would say for the weather app over here, it is part of a subscription, so like the XM Travel link. So obviously I don't have the right there, but obviously you can view the weather reports if you don't want to use your smartphone. Now text. So text is basically where you can access your text messages. In this case, if you have an Apple CarPlay device connected, it's going to take it back to Apple CarPlay and you can access your messages over here. However, let's disconnect the iPhone. Alright, and let's go back and let it reconnect back to my Galaxy Note 8. Dismiss. Text. Alright, and you can see the little spinning wheel over here, and then it's going to pull up my text messages over here. And then of course, you have different tabs right here. You can view the connected phones to the system, and then you can go to settings and then alter whatever settings that you want. Now, what I did notice is that if you're at a complete stop like we are right now in the parking lot, you can view your text messages on the system right here without having to unlock your phone. If you are driving and your vehicle is in motion, you may get notifications that you got incoming text messages coming in, but you will not be able to view them if the vehicle is still in motion. You have to come to a complete stop, whether you're at a red light or a stop sign or in a parking lot like we are right now. You have to be at a complete stop in order to view the text messages and read them off of your system right here. Otherwise, you can have it set to read the text message to you and speak it out to you out loud. So that's a pretty neat safety feature right here, because the biggest thing when it comes to driving is texting and driving. You do not want to do that while you're operating a motor vehicle. General Motors did integrate that as a safety feature, and I must say that is pretty neat. So let's go home over here and let's take a look at the next page over here. And this is basically where it's going to require like additional subscriptions. So like OnStar, for example, what I can do is like purchase that for like additional roadside assistance, the vehicle depth, etc. And then of course the traffic is basically to monitor how the traffic is like in a particular area. Other than that, that's pretty much the Chevy MyLink system over here. The rest that I would have to point out is not a huge deal, I would say. Well, I shouldn't say not a huge deal, but they're just like very minor. So for instance, like I have my climate controls right here, and if I were to increase the fan speed, it's also going to give you a pop-up screen right there showing you what your current climate settings are like. And if I wanted to shut off the air circulation button, it's going to show that right here, and turn it back on. Then it's going to change to the circulation icon as well. And then of course I can adjust on where I want the heat to be blowing or the AC. And if I wanted to turn like my rear or front defogger on, it's going to pop up for that as well. And what doesn't show is like the temperature right here, but obviously that's pretty straightforward. Blue is cold and then red is hot. But other than that, that's pretty much the 2016 Chevy MyLink system in a 2016 Chevy Colorado LT model. This was basically a general overview of what the system is like and how it is to use. And I must say it is pretty interesting and that it is pretty user-friendly. I mean, there are like a couple hiccups here and there where like the system may froze, but I only seen that in like the audio part. Like I said before, the audio part, it seems like for most cars when you're streaming through Bluetooth that you may run into a little bit of an issue where it may delay on like changing a song or going to a previous song. But I would imagine that that would be normal because Bluetooth is wireless. It's not as reliable as a standard wire connection over here. One thing that I do want to point out is if you do wind up connecting your Android device to a USB port, I did notice where at one point it may black out your screen on your phone and you can't use it until you unlock it, but it is still charging the phone. And if you wanted to play music through your Bluetooth, you have to make sure that you are selecting a song and then let it play before you plug it in. Otherwise, once you plug it in and you're down the road, you can't use the phone to change anything, unless if you were to unplug it and use your phone from there. But obviously, for a safety reason, you don't want to be using any device while the vehicle is in motion. However, I have noticed that on not only this truck, but also on another car as well. For instance, the other car that I've tried out before was in a Honda product, and the same thing has occurred. So I'm assuming that must be what's happening whenever it tries to connect through Android Auto, but in this case, I couldn't get the Android Auto to work on this truck over here. And as you can see, the projection screen and switch back after unplugging the iPhone, and if you were to tap on that, it's going to give you a message saying to use this feature, connect supported device to USB. So let me know what you guys think about the Chevy MyLink system in the 2016, and what are your thoughts about this? Do you guys find it user friendly, or do you guys feel like there are other infotainment systems out there that are a lot more user-friendly compared to this one over here? For me, I would say this one works for me. What you get is what you get in the vehicle infotainment system, but obviously each vehicle varies, so it may be different in a Ford, maybe different in a Honda, but I would say across like all GM platforms, they're very similar. So like, let's say if I were to jump into like a Camaro ZL1, the user interface is most likely going to be the same. If I were to jump into a GMC Sierra, most likely it'll be the same. It may look a little bit different from what I've seen. And then of course Cadillac's Q system, it'll be very similar, just looks completely different, but may operate a little bit differently as well. But they're like very similar to each other. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, rate, comment. Also check out the description below for my social media links, Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to see more pictures of this truck, definitely check out the Instagram. I am posting there a lot with this truck. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Have a great day.